we do begin with some sad news. In fact, I thought of you, Jeff, since you're such a big fan of Curb. Comedian Richard Lewis passed away yesterday at the age of 76 from a heart attack. And last year, he announced he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And less than 3 weeks ago, in one of his final interviews, he told people he was doing quite well. Richard was known for his neurotic and self-deprecating style of comedy. In the 80s and 90s, he made appearances on The Tonight Show and The Late Show with David Letterman. In 1989, he landed a leading role with Jamie Lee Curtis in the ABC sitcom Anything But Love. Richard then appeared in movies such as Robin Hood Men in Tights, and in most recent years, he's known for playing a semi-fictionalized version of himself throughout the 24 years of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And of course, many tributes are pouring in, including from Larry David himself, who shared a statement saying, quote, "Richard and I were born 3 days apart in the same hospital, and for most of my life, he's been like a brother to me. He had that rare combination of being the funniest person and also the sweetest, but today he made me sob, and for that I'll never forgive him." Very Larry David. Jamie Lee Curtis posted pictures from Anything But Love with a lengthy caption ending with, quote, "He also is the reason I am sober. He helped me. I am forever grateful for him for that act of grace alone." I love both of those tributes. When you heard the news, Jeff, what did you think?
Yeah, that was going around me and my friends because we're all Curb fans, right? And it's so sad because, like I said, I watch Curb like every night before I go to bed, so I see Richard all the time. And I start from like season 1, I hop around till now, and in this season, this latest season, just last month, him and Larry are having an argument about Richard saying, "I'm gonna leave all my money to you in my will," and Larry's like, "You better not," and they're having like a big fight. But kind of weird how he's talking about that in this latest episode. But you saw his decline a little bit the last couple seasons of Curb, but what a fan I was, not only of him on Curb, but just his stand-up and everything he's done. And I'm starting to really starting to watch old school comedians. I have an appreciation for them, and he was one of them, you know. He was a pioneer of that, so he's going to be missed, and I'm going to miss him from the show for sure.
Yeah, he was a pioneer of making angst and neuroses and worry and panic and inner dread, that voice that we all kind of have and we're told to tamp down. He made that acceptable to kind of laugh about it. Like, oh, if the plane goes down, then they gotta call my wife, and all these things that you would never think about. He dug into these kind of dark topics and made them funny and normalized them, and said that little side part in your brain, like, I have that too, except it's huge and I'm gonna make it funny. I think he'll be missed on a number of different levels. I was lucky enough to work with him a few times, and you know, we talked very briefly, but just a really great guy, and really also was a pioneer in terms of getting guys, men and women, sober. He dealt with a very difficult addiction and came through it in an era where most comics did not. And
made light of it, right? In his comedy, which is something that makes people comfortable enough to talk to him about.
It was his second act, his sober years.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right, so Tori, this one's for you, Mrs. Simon and Garfunkel. Paul Simon is one of...
What is that title?
She loves...
But who would say, oh, Tori? I don't know her.
So
oh, Mrs. Simon and Garfunkel.
We're in a throuple together.
Yes, Tori.
We're in a bridge over thrupled water.
Okay. Our little TMI there. Paul Simon is one of the greatest songwriters in history, and he has a 2-part docuseries coming out in March that will cover his 6-decade career and his journey creating his most recent album. Let's take a look at a clip from the trailer.
Simon is joining us.
Paul Simon?
Paul Simon.
Paul Simon.
People used to say, oh, you have your finger on the pulse. No, I don't have my finger on the pulse. I just have my finger out the earth. And the pulse is running under.
Yes. Okay, so it appears that the docuseries will also cover Paul's friendship with Art Garfunkel and how their partnership eventually dissolved and became contentious. Okay, Tori, so I know that you love them. Are you afraid that everyone's going to be watching for that one part about their friendship, or is that part of the mystique?
Yeah, I think everybody, including Stern and all these people, have always wanted Garfunkel and Simon to get back together. That's the big thing. They're not. They ended their friendship after Bridge Over Troubled Waters album. It's one of the best-selling albums of all time. He did say, Paul Simon, at Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, he's been inducted twice, by the way, I want to thank Art and say that I regret the ending of our friendship, and I hope that someday, before we die, we will make peace peace with each other.
Maybe this is
could
the
be the
bridge.
catalyst, the bridge, if you will, over troubled waters. By the way they sang that was my mother's wedding song. It brought my mother out of a coma listening to these two. Art Garfunkel has one of the sweetest, most beautiful, purest sounds. So to hear them again together would be a miracle. I also just want to say he married Carrie Fisher, had a child with Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia. Many people don't know that. And he also, during apartheid, crossed the embargo to go to South Africa, meet with Ladysmith Black Mambazo, and create what we know as Graceland.
Wow.
And no one knew the South African sound, and he brought it through the arts, a connection that translated into foreign policy.
I would say people in South Africa knew the sound.
I apologize, I meant Americans. Of course I'm talking about Americans.
Would you say it's okay to call them the white outcast?
Oh, yes.
They broke up and no one knew why. I would want to know why. Every generation has one, whether it's New Edition, Belle Biv DeVoe, the Eagles. Everybody wants to know why they broke up, Jeff.
Garfunkel 3000.
That's right. Yes.
This album reminds me of like my childhood because my parents loved Simon and Garfunkel.
too.
Me going fishing, I feel like I could just
You
see
and
the
Tori
road.
have something in common?
I know. Me driving.
Is this a bridge?
Were you on a fishing trip to Canada as well?
I was.
My dad just put this and Billy Joel on repeat. But
Joel.
really? Yeah. But anyways, it just reminds me of my childhood. My parents are big fans. But I saw Paul Simon on a podcast, and he was saying he's got something wrong with his hearing.
Yep.
And he doesn't know if he could play anymore unless it's just acoustic.
Correct.
If the whole band is behind him, he said he doesn't think he could play anymore. So I would love
an acoustic version
for them to get back together, but I don't know if it would be possible unless it was an acoustic.
And to be honest, just very quickly, the best part of them is the quiet voice of the harmony. So if it's just acoustic with them, it would be perfect.
You didn't say enough?
Can I see?
No, I need to
wait,
talk
can I see your acoustic
Stump
again?
speech.
You know what you did?
What?
Do it.
Was I?
Say acoustic.
Oh, was I miming it?
Yeah, do it.
Full on mimed it.
Oh wow, here's my acoustic pick.
Your tiny violin.
Air guitar. I screwed
Good
it
one.
up.
Yeah, that wasn't funny.
My friend's got a bag and it's empty, and he's like, "Here's my air guitar picks." I thought it was funny.
Okay. Coming.